How did you get this?
So we were at an estate sale, me and my sister, and came across it and thought it was super cool. It reminded me of an old football helmet, and I'm hoping to sell the helmet today here for about $750.
A seller walked into the Pawn Star's shop, hoping to turn a rusty $200 helmet into $750. Minutes later, an expert revealed it was worth around $15,000. And that was only the beginning. Throughout the years, sellers have brought in forgotten coins, historic medals, shipwreck treasures, and rare collectibles expecting a modest payday, only to discover they were holding items worth thousands more. In this video, we reveal 12 unforgettable Pawn Stars moments, examining what each seller expected, how experts authenticated the item, what made it valuable, and the final offer placed on the table. 12. 1922. High-relief matte-proof piece dollar. The seller arrived with a coin that had already lived an unusual life. He had not purchased it from a respected dealer, inherited it from a collector, or discovered it inside an old family safe. Instead, he claimed he won it during a poker game. Even though the coin was sealed inside a professional grading holder, he believed getting around $20,000 would be an incredible result. Rick quickly recognized the piece as a 1922 high-relief matte-proof piece dollar, one of the rarest coins in American history. The United States Mint created it during an experimental period, hoping the raised design would show greater detail. However, the minting equipment struggled under the pressure. The dies wore out quickly, production became too difficult, and most examples were destroyed. Only a tiny number are believed to survive today. After examining the coin, the expert estimated its value between $50,000 and $100,000. Rick opened at $65,000, but the seller pushed higher. After a tense negotiation, they settled at $80,000, giving him 4 times what he first expected from one unforgettable poker prize that changed his luck forever. If you thought an $80,000 coin was unbelievable, this next item proves that even a small childhood keepsake can turn into an unexpected historical treasure. 11. George Washington Funeral Medal. Sometimes the most valuable collectibles are the ones people have owned the longest. This seller had kept a small medal in his collection for more than 30 years, after buying it at a coin show with his father as a child. It had become just another keepsake sitting among his other collectibles, and he assumed it might be worth only a few $100s. He never imagined it could attract serious attention inside the pawn shop. Rick quickly identified it as a George Washington Funeral Medal, created shortly after the first president passed away in 1799. During that period, Americans searched for ways to honor Washington's legacy, and these memorial medals became lasting reminders of a nation in mourning. Many people proudly wore or carried them as symbols of respect for the man who helped shape the young country. An expert carefully examined the piece and confirmed it was authentic. Thanks to its strong condition and historical importance, he estimated its value at around $4,000. The old man opened with a lower offer, and after several rounds of negotiation, the seller accepted $2,500. A simple childhood purchase had quietly become a surprisingly rewarding piece of American history. 10. George Washington Masonic Medal. At first glance, the item looked like an old coin, but Rick sort of immediately noticed something weird. There was no denomination anywhere on it, so it seemed like it had never been meant as money. Instead, the detailed symbols really leaned toward Freemasonry, one of the oldest fraternal groups in America. Since several founding fathers, George Washington included, were Freemasons, Rick figured the object might carry far more historical weight than its small size gave away. To find out what it was, Rick called in expert David Vaghi. The moment Vaghi examined the piece, he recognized it as one of the earliest George Washington Masonic medals ever produced. Vaghi said it was struck in 1797 by the engraver Peter Getz, and that he had personally known Washington. And then there was this part. Only about 20 examples were believed to have survived, which makes it one of the rarest Masonic collectibles tied to America's first president. The seller came into the shop expecting around $5,000, but Vaghi estimated the metal at roughly $40,000. Rick then made a pretty strong first bid of $20,000, yet the seller felt it deserved more. No one wanted to settle, so the seller decided to just walk away. In the end, he kept the extraordinary metal instead of accepting an offer that was already life-changing. 9. 1907 St. Gaudens Double Eagle. Most people expect a poker tip to be a few chips or maybe a handful of cash. This seller walked into the pawn shop with something far more unusual. Years earlier, she had received a 1907 St. Gaudens Double Eagle as a poker tip and held onto it ever since. She believed the coin might bring around $1,000, not realizing that its gold content alone already made it worth considerably more before its rarity was even considered. Rick immediately recognized the famous design. President Theodore Roosevelt believed American coins lacked beauty and wanted them redesigned to reflect the nation's greatness. He turned to renowned sculptor Augustus St. Gaudens, whose artistic vision produced what many collectors still consider the most beautiful coin ever struck by the United States Mint. The coin's elegant appearance and fascinating history made it highly desirable among collectors. To determine its true value, Rick brought in an expert for a professional evaluation. After carefully examining the coin, the expert assigned it a Mint State 63 grade and estimated its market value at roughly $4,000. Rick wasted no time and offered $3,000. The seller accepted immediately, transforming a forgotten poker tip into an easy payday that was worth far more than she ever imagined. 8. World War II M.H. Cole Knuckle Knife. Every family has these stories that kinda grow larger each time another generation comes around. So, this seller showed up with an old fighting knife, and alongside it, a rather remarkable story, saying his great-grandfather supposedly used it during the war. He even said the whole thing sounded a bit exaggerated, but he was still hoping the unusual piece could at least bring in something around $500. Bills are piling up, you know, so any extra money really would matter. Rick thought the knife was interesting, but honestly, it looked a lot like various modern reproductions you can still buy today. To check if it was genuinely special, military expert Alex Cranmer was called in. He looked at it right away and said it was a real, authentic M.H. Cole knuckle knife from World War II. Even more, the distinctive 9-point brass knuckle handle came from one of Cole's earliest production runs, so it's considered one of the most wanted versions in the military collector world. And yeah, a lot of collectors spend years, basically years, trying to locate an example like this. Cranmer estimated the value at about $10,000, which left the seller totally stunned. Rick made an offer for $5,000 on the spot, while the seller tried to push for closer to $7,000. Rick wouldn't budge on the price, so after some thinking, the seller accepted. In the end, an old family keepsake turned into a payday worth 10 times more than he'd originally expected. 7. Captain Cook Resolution and Adventure Medal. Some of the biggest surprises on Pawn Stars come from items that owners barely recognize. This seller walked into the shop with a small metal piece she believed might be an old coin. She had no idea what it actually was and admitted she would have happily accepted just $50 or $100. It looked ordinary enough, but Rick immediately noticed the engraved names Resolution and Adventure, suggesting the object could be tied to something much more important. Those names belonged to the two ships commanded by Captain James Cook during his second voyage across the Pacific between 1772 and 1775.
Captain Cook worked his way in the annals of history to be one of the greatest ship captains ever. This is the guy who discovered islands all over the Pacific. He mapped them all out.
Rick called in an expert who identified the piece as a genuine Resolution and Adventure medal. Around 2,000 of these medals were struck, and Captain Cook reportedly carried them aboard his expedition to present as diplomatic gifts to Pacific Island leaders he encountered during the historic journey. The expert was impressed by the medal's outstanding condition and estimated its auction value between $7,500 and $8,500. The seller immediately raised her expectations, but Rick reminded her she had only hoped for a few dollars when she arrived. After negotiating, he offered $5,000, and she accepted. What started as a mystery object became a remarkable payday worth roughly 100 times more than she first imagined. That tiny medal delivered a massive surprise, but this next item wasn't just valuable. It reunited a legendary rock guitarist with a one-of-a-kind instrument. 6. D.J. Ashba Gibson Les Paul Prototype. Not every valuable item arrives with the goal of making someone rich. This customized Gibson Les Paul had a much bigger purpose. The seller explained that the guitar had been donated to help raise money for a children's hospital being built in Las Vegas. She knew it looked unique and hoped it could bring at least $5,000. But neither she nor Rick realized just how extraordinary the instrument truly was. Rick could tell it came from Gibson's custom shop, but confirming its history required someone with first-hand knowledge. Instead of calling in a typical guitar expert, he invited DJ Ashba, the former guitarist for Guns N' Roses. The moment Ashba saw the instrument, he smiled. It was the original prototype used before Gibson produced his signature model. Unlike the guitars sold to fans, this one was completely one of a kind. Ashba even remembered performing with it on stage, leaving behind the wear and tear that proved its authenticity. Ashba believed the guitar could easily sell for between $20,000 and $30,000.
Yes, it is a DJ Ashba guitar. I got the guitar because my boyfriend is building a children's hospital here in Las Vegas, which is super exciting, and we've been collecting items to sell to help donate to the cause.
Rather than chasing a profit, Rick offered $20,000, knowing every dollar would support the children's hospital. The seller accepted immediately, creating a rare win for everyone involved. The hospital received major funding, and the legendary guitar was able to find its way back to its original owner. 5. Dutch East India Company Shipwreck Bell. Some treasures are discovered in attics, while others come from the bottom of the sea. April walked into the pawn shop carrying a large bronze bell that she had purchased years earlier from a small shop in Indonesia for about $700. The seller there claimed it had been recovered from a Dutch East India Company shipwreck. It sounded like an incredible story, but proving it was another matter entirely. Rick was fascinated by the bell, but the old man immediately noticed something unusual. After spending centuries underwater, the bronze should have shown far more corrosion and damage. Its surprisingly clean appearance made him question whether the story was true. To settle the debate, a shipwreck expert examined the artifact and explained that many recovered items are brought to the surface and preserved long before they enter the collector's market. That process could easily explain why the bell remained in such remarkable condition. The expert concluded that the bell was authentic and estimated its value at around $15,000. Excited by the appraisal, April raised her asking price to $11,000. Negotiations quickly followed, and Rick stepped in with an offer of $7,200. She accepted without hesitation, turning a $700 purchase into a return worth more than 10 times what she had originally paid. 4. Syracuse Decadrachm. Ancient coins usually come with amazing stories, but this one looked kinda too perfect, to be honest. The seller already had a feeling he held something valuable and sort of walked into the shop, hoping he'd get about $20,000. Rick almost instantly noticed that the overly large silver coin could be a real ancient Greek masterpiece. Yet at the same time, the details were so crisp that it made him pause, and not just a little. A lot of fake ancient coins seem convincing at first glance, and when a piece is in unusually fine condition, people naturally start to doubt it. To figure out what was actually going on, Rick brought in an expert who focuses on ancient coins. After a thorough look, the expert said it was a Syracuse Decadrachm, minted roughly between 400 and 360 BC. On one side, the coin shows the well-known image of the nymph Arethusa, and on the other, there's a victorious chariot scene. Collectors have treated this exact design as one of the strongest achievements in ancient coin engraving, so real examples are chased globally around the world pretty much. The expert checked everything piece by piece, looking for any signs of modern trickery, but nothing conflicted with genuine ancient minting methods. He then estimated the value at about $50,000. Rick started the talks with an offer of $35,000, then moved up to $40,000. In the end, the seller agreed, and that meant he ended up doubling what he originally expected from one extraordinary slice of ancient history. 3. Mystery Fraternal Medal. Not every valuable collectible announces exactly what it is. This seller walked into the pawn shop carrying a strange silver piece he had purchased years earlier at an estate sale. Covered with unfamiliar symbols and lacking any clear markings, it had remained a mystery ever since. He never managed to identify the organization behind it, but he believed the unusual item might still be worth around $1,000 because of its age and craftsmanship. Rick studied the piece closely, but admitted he could not identify it either. Rather than guessing, he called in an expert to uncover its true history. After examining the symbols and design, the expert identified it as a rare fraternal medal dating back to the late 19th century. It had been issued by a once popular organization that had long since disappeared, making surviving examples increasingly desirable to collectors interested in forgotten American history. The medal's excellent condition impressed the expert just as much as its rarity. Most similar pieces show heavy wear after more than a century, but this example retained crisp details across its surface. He estimated its value at approximately $1,500. Rick offered $1,000, the seller countered with $1,200, and after a short negotiation, they agreed on $1,100. A forgotten estate sale mystery had quietly become a rewarding hidden treasure. 2. Benjamin Harrison signed cabinet card. Family photo albums usually have those priceless moments, yet this particular one kind of did more than that. It also turned up an unexpected collectible, you know. The seller said the cabinet card had been sitting in her family for around 70 years.
It was given to my dad when he was a young child, so it's been in a box for about 70 years. My parents just celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary, and I would like to send them on a trip if possible.
After she removed it from an old photo album. The picture shows Benjamin Harrison, who was the 23rd President of the United States. She figured it might bring something like $500. But she honestly had no real method to tell if it was actually something special. Rick got interested right away, especially with the writing across the photograph. He said cabinet cards were made in massive amounts back then, so the image by itself usually doesn't do much at all for value. If the text had just been added afterward as a way to name the president, then maybe the whole thing would be worth closer to $10. It really came down to one basic question. Did Benjamin Harrison sign it himself, or was it someone else's handwriting pretending? An autograph expert checked the ink closely and compared the handwriting against verified Harrison examples. After going over every little part, he concluded the signature was authentic. Just like that, the card stopped being a plain photo and became a sought-after presidential collectible, roughly worth $1,250. Rick then offered $700. The seller, naturally, was hoping it would be higher. After a short back and forth, they ended up agreeing on $750. In the end, what started as a simple family keepsake quietly turned into a genuinely rewarding piece of presidential history. A signed presidential photograph was an incredible find, but this last discovery began with a $200 gamble and ended with one of the biggest paydays in Pawn Stars history. 1. Anglo-Saxon Spangenhelm. The biggest surprise on this countdown began with a simple estate sale purchase. The seller was not a historian or an ancient armor collector. He simply noticed an unusual iron helmet, paid just $200 for it, and hoped he could flip it for around $750. It looked old and rusty, but there was no guarantee it was anything more than a decorative replica. Even Chumley admitted that ancient armor was outside his expertise, but he knew it deserved a closer look. An expert was called in to examine the helmet using modern metal analysis. The tests showed that its composition closely matched early bloomer iron, the type commonly produced during the early medieval period. The helmet appeared to be an authentic Anglo-Saxon Spangenhelm, a design worn by Germanic warriors, Anglo-Saxons, and even Vikings. Because iron naturally corrodes over time, finding a mostly intact example that had survived nearly 15 centuries was extraordinarily rare. The expert estimated the helmet's value at around $15,000, leaving the seller completely stunned. Moments earlier, he had hoped to earn only a few $100s. Negotiations quickly followed, and Chumley eventually agreed to pay $10,000. A forgotten estate sale gamble had turned into one of the most profitable flips ever seen on Pawn Stars, delivering an incredible 50-fold return on a $200 investment. Which seller's discovery surprised you the most? Was it the poker prize worth $80,000? The guitar that raised money for a hospital? Or the rusty helmet that produced a 50-fold return? Share your choice in the comments. Like the video, subscribe for more surprising Pawn Stars discoveries, and watch the next video shown on the screen for another countdown filled with rare finds and unexpected paydays.